Jake's hands closed around the Skirnathi leader's throat with impossible speed. The massive raider was nearly twice Jake's size, but Jake moved like he weighed nothing at all. He used the leader's own momentum against him, twisting and pulling, until the giant alien lost his balance and crashed to the ground. The leader's weapon flew from his hands as he fell. Jake caught it in midair and spun it around, striking the raider in the head with the butt of his own gun. The impact made a sound like a hammer hitting metal, and the leader's eyes rolled back in his head. The remaining two Skirnathi rushed at Jake together, thinking they could overwhelm him with numbers. Jake dropped low, sweeping the legs of the first raider and sending him tumbling into the canyon wall. As the second raider swung his weapon down where Jake had been, Jake rolled away and came up behind him. Jake's fist struck the raider's kidney with surgical precision, right where the armor plates didn't quite meet. The massive alien howled in pain and stumbled forward. Jake grabbed the raider's helmet and twisted it sharply to the side, cutting off the alien's air supply and making him panic. The raider clawed at his helmet, trying to remove it, but Jake had jammed the locking mechanism. Within seconds, the raider collapsed, unconscious from lack of air. The last standing Skirnathi looked around at his fallen comrades, then at Jake, who was breathing hard but still standing. The raider's eyes were wide with disbelief and fear. He had never seen anything like this before. "Impossible," the raider whispered in his harsh language. "You are just human." Jake picked up another weapon from the ground, his movements still smooth and controlled despite the violence of the past few minutes. "Yes," he said quietly, "I am just human." The last raider looked at Jake for a long moment, then at the canyon walls, then at his unconscious comrades. He made a decision. Without another word, he turned and ran, climbing out of the canyon as fast as his large frame would allow. Jake watched him go, but didn't pursue. The immediate threat was over. His breathing began to slow, and the cold, calculating feeling in his mind started to fade. The transformation was reversing, and Jake Morrison, the engineer, was coming back. He looked around the canyon. 3 Skirnathi were unconscious on the ground. One was limping away through the rocks, his leg badly injured. 2 had fled entirely. Jake had won, but he felt no satisfaction in the victory. He felt only exhaustion and a strange emptiness. "Jake?" Zarakis' voice was soft and uncertain. Jake turned to look at her. She was standing with the other survivors, all of them staring at him with expressions he had never seen before. There was gratitude in their eyes, but also fear and amazement. They were looking at him like he was a stranger. "Are you hurt?" Jake asked, his voice returning to its normal, gentle tone. Zarakis shook her head, but Jake could see the marks on her throat where the leader had grabbed her. There was also the cut on her arm from earlier, still bleeding slowly. Jake's chest tightened with worry and anger. "Let me see," he said, moving toward her. Zarakis took a small step backward, an unconscious movement that stopped Jake in his tracks. She had never backed away from him before, not once in the 2 years they had been together. "I'm sorry," she said quickly, seeing the hurt in his eyes. "I just ... I need a moment." Jake nodded, though it felt like a knife in his heart. He understood. What she had just witnessed was not the gentleman she had fallen in love with. It was something else entirely, something violent and dangerous. "Is everyone else okay?" Jake asked, turning to the other survivors. Dr. Kim nodded, though her hands were shaking. "We're fine, thanks to you." Tom was staring at the unconscious Skirnathi with amazement. "How did you do that?" "They're 3 times your size." "I don't know," Jake said honestly. "I just ... reacted." Velinara, the Veltar researcher, was looking at Jake with scientific curiosity mixed with fear. "I have read about human defensive responses, but I never imagined they were so ... effective." Jake pulled out his radio, wanting to change the subject. "Command, this is Jake. The threat has been neutralized. We have 3 prisoners, and the research team is safe." Lisa's voice came back immediately. "Jake, what's your status?" "We heard weapons fire. We're okay. Jake said. "But I need a security team to collect the prisoners and escort us back." "On the way," Lisa replied. "ETA 20 minutes. Jake put the radio away and looked at the group. They were all safe, which was what mattered. But something had changed between them. Something that couldn't be undone. "We should move away from here," Jake said, "in case more Skirnathi come looking for their friends." They gathered their things and moved to a wider part of the canyon where they could see anyone approaching. Jake helped Velanara, who was still shaky from being grabbed by the raiders. Dr. Kim and Tom stayed close together, talking in quiet voices about what they had witnessed. Zarakif walked beside Jake but didn't touch him, didn't take his hand like she usually would. Jake could feel the distance between them like a physical thing. "Zara," he said quietly, "are you afraid of me now?" She was quiet for a long time, thinking. "Not afraid," she said finally. "Confused. I thought I knew what humans were capable of. But what I just saw, it's still me," Jake said. "I'm still the same person. Are you?" Zarakif asked, and there was genuine curiosity in her voice, not accusation. "Because the Jake I know is gentle and thoughtful. He solves problems with his mind, not his fists. He has never hurt anyone in his life." Jake didn't know how to answer that. The truth was, he didn't feel like the same person. Something had awakened inside him during the fight, something he didn't fully understand. It was like discovering he had another personality living in his head, one that was capable of terrible violence. "I don't know," he admitted. "I've never felt anything like that before. It was like I became someone else for a few minutes. Someone dangerous," Zarakis said softly. "Someone who protected you," Jake replied. They reached the wider area and sat down to wait for the security team. Jake used the first aid kit Dr. Carter had given him to clean and bandage the cut on Zarakif's arm. His hands were gentle and steady, just like always, but Zarakif watched his movements with new eyes. "Your hands," she said. "They were just hitting those raiders, and now they're treating my wounds so carefully." "They're the same hands," Jake said. "I'm the same person." "But you're not," Zarakis said, and now there was wonder in her voice instead of fear. "You're more than I thought you were." "All humans are more than we thought." Jake finished bandaging her arm and sat back. "Does that change how you feel about me?" Zarakif considered this question seriously. "I don't know yet. I need time to understand what I saw. My people, we don't have anything like that inside us. We can't just become warriors when we need to. We thought humans were weak because you're smaller and softer than most species. But weakness and strength are not the same thing, are they?" "No," Jake said. "They're not." In the distance, they could hear the sound of vehicles approaching. The security team was coming to collect the prisoners and escort them home. Soon they would be back in the colony, back to their normal life. But Jake wondered if anything would ever be normal again. He had shown Zarakit a part of himself that he didn't even know existed. He had become something violent and dangerous to protect her. And now she looked at him like she was seeing him for the first time. The worst part was that Jake wasn't sure the violent part of him had gone away completely. It felt like it was still there, sleeping just under the surface, waiting for the next time someone threatened the people he loved. As the security vehicles came into view, Jake reached for Zarakif's hand. She hesitated for just a moment, then took it. Her skin was still cool and soft, just like always. "We'll figure this out," Jake said. "Yes," Zarakif agreed. "We will." But as they waited for rescue, both of them knew that their relationship had changed forever. Jake had saved her life, but in doing so, he had revealed something about human nature that neither of them fully understood. The gentle engineer and the curious scientist would have to learn to live with the knowledge of what humans could become when the people they loved were in danger. The Skirnathi moved into the canyon like hunters who knew they had cornered their prey. Jake counted 6 of them, each one massive and covered in dark armor that looked like it had been through many battles. Their weapons gleamed in the sunlight that filtered down between the canyon walls. The leader was the largest of the group, standing nearly 9 feet tall with scars covering his armor. He spoke in the harsh Skirnathi language, and the others spread out to block both ends of the canyon. There was no way out. "Stay behind me," Jake whispered to the group, though he knew it was pointless. What could he do against 6 armed raiders? He was just an engineer with a tool bag and a first aid kit. The Skirnathi leader stepped forward and spoke in broken English. "You come with us? You work for us now." "No fighting, no dying. Fighting means dying." Dr. Kim stepped forward, her voice shaking but determined. "We're scientists." "We don't have anything you want." The leader laughed, a sound like grinding metal. "You have hands. You have brains. You work in our mines. You fix our machines. Very useful." "We won't go with you," Tom said, trying to sound brave but failing. "You go, or you die here," the leader said simply. "Your choice." Jake looked around the canyon, searching for any way to escape. The walls were too high and steep to climb. The only exits were blocked by the Skirnathi. They were trapped, and Jake felt helpless. His whole life, he had been able to solve problems by thinking through them carefully, but there was no engineering solution to this situation. "I give you 10 seconds to decide," the leader said, raising his weapon. "Then we start killing the weak ones first." Jake's heart was pounding, but he tried to stay calm. Maybe he could talk to them, negotiate somehow. "Look, we're not worth anything to you dead. If you want workers, you need us alive." "We only need some of you alive," the leader said with another grinding laugh. "Others can die as examples." The leader pointed his weapon at Velinara, the Veltar researcher. She was the smallest of the group, and clearly the most frightened. "She dies first." "No." Zarakis stepped forward, moving to protect her fellow Veltar. "Take me instead. I'm stronger." Jake felt something cold grip his heart. "Zara, get back." But Zarakif ignored him, facing the massive Skirnathi leader. "I'm a scientist too. I'm more valuable than she is." The leader studied Zarakif with interest. "You are brave for a weak one, but I think I kill you both. Show the others what happens when you argue." 2 more Skirnathi moved forward. There, weapons raised. One grabbed Velinara roughly, making her cry out in pain. The other reached for Zarakif. "Don't touch her," Jake said, stepping forward. The Skirnathi ignored him. The raider's massive hand closed around Zarakif's arm, and she gasped in pain. Jake could see her silver skin turning dark where the raider's fingers pressed into her flesh. "Let her go," Jake said again, louder this time. The leader turned to look at Jake with amusement. "What will you do, little human? You have no weapons, no armor, no strength. You are nothing." The raider holding Zarakif twisted her arm, and she cried out. Jake saw a thin line of purple blood running down her arm where the raider's claws had broken her skin. "Please," Jake said, his voice breaking. "Don't hurt her." "I hurt whoever I want," the leader said. He nodded to the raider holding Zarakif. "Break her arm. Show the others what happens when they resist." The raider holding Zarakif began to apply pressure. Zarakif's face twisted in pain, and she looked at Jake with her golden eyes full of fear and love and goodbye. Something inside Jake's mind snapped. The world seemed to slow down around him. His vision became sharper, more focused. He could see everything with perfect clarity. The positions of all 6 Skirnathi, their weapons, their armor, the weak points where their joints connected. His heart rate, which had been racing with fear, suddenly became steady and strong. Jake's breathing changed, becoming deep and controlled. His muscles tense, not with fear but with readiness. The helpless feeling that had been crushing him disappeared, replaced by something cold and calculating and absolutely deadly. The Skirnathi leader was still talking, still laughing, but Jake was no longer listening to the words. He was studying the raider's stance, the way he held his weapon, the gap between his helmet and his chest armor. The raider holding Zarkith was focused on hurting her, not watching for threats. His grip was strong, but it left his side exposed. Jake could see exactly where to strike to make him let go. Jake's hand moved to his tool bag, not frantically, but with calm purpose. His fingers closed around a heavy wrench, the one he used for the largest bolts on the machinery. It was solid steel, weighing about 2 pounds, and in Jake's hand it felt like a weapon. The transformation was complete. Jake Morrison, the Gentle. Engineer was still there, but buried under something older and more primitive. Something that had helped humans survive when they were weak and surrounded by predators. Something that had driven his ancestors to fight impossible odds to protect the people they loved. The raider holding Zarkith began to twist her arm again. Jake moved. He crossed the distance between them in 3 quick steps, faster than any of the Skarnathi had expected a human to move. The wrench in his hand swung up in a perfect arc, striking the raider in the gap between his helmet and shoulder. Armor. The impact was tremendous. The raider's head snapped back, and he released Zarkith instantly, stumbling backward with a roar of pain and surprise. Jake didn't pause. He followed up with a second strike to the raider's knee joint, and the massive alien crashed to the ground. The other Skarnathi were shocked. They had never seen a human move like this, with such speed and precision and absolute lack of fear. For a moment, they just stared. Jake didn't waste that moment. He grabbed a sharp piece of metal debris from the canyon floor and threw it at the raider holding Velanara. The metal struck the raider in the face, and he dropped the Veltar woman to clutch at his bleeding wound. "Stay down," Jake said to the group of humans and Veltar behind him. His voice was different now, harder and more commanding. "Don't move unless I tell you to." The Skarnathi leader had recovered from his shock. He raised his weapon and fired at Jake, but Jake was no longer where he had been. He was moving, rolling behind a rock, coming up with another piece of debris in his hand. "Kill him!" the leader roared. "Kill the human!" The canyon exploded into violence. The Skarnathi fired their weapons, filling the air with energy bolts and the smell of burning stone. But Jake was everywhere and nowhere, moving like a ghost between the rocks and shadows. He used the canyon itself as a weapon, causing small rock slides to rain down on the raiders. He used their own size against them, staying too close for them to use their long-range weapons effectively. He used pieces of metal and stone like thrown knives, striking at weak points in their armor. One raider went down with a broken leg. Another stumbled backward, blinded by dust and debris. A third dropped his weapon when a thrown rock shattered his wrist. But there were still 3 Skarnathi left, including the leader, and Jake was just one human. He was fast and clever, but he was still smaller and weaker than his enemies. A lucky shot from one of their weapons could end the fight instantly. The leader realized this too. He stopped trying to shoot Jake and instead grabbed Zarkith, who was helping Velanara to her feet. His massive arm wrapped around her throat, and he held his weapon to her head. "Stop!" the leader shouted. "Stop fighting, or I kill her now." Jake froze. The cold, calculating part of his mind was telling him to keep fighting, that he could still win. But the part that was still Jake Morrison, still the man who loved Zarkith more than his own life, couldn't risk her death. "Let her go," Jake said, his voice deadly quiet. "Drop your weapons," the leader commanded. "Get on your knees. Do it now, or she dies." Jake looked at Zarkith. She was trying to breathe with the raider's arm around her throat, but she was looking at him with trust and love, even now. She believed he would save her. Jake dropped the wrench and the piece of metal he had been holding. But he didn't get on his knees. Instead, he took a step forward. "I said, get down," the leader roared. "Let her go," Jake repeated, taking another step forward. "Last warning." The leader's grip tightened on Zarkith's throat. "You are in no position to give warnings, human." Jake smiled, and it was not a nice smile. "Yes, I am." The leader was about to respond when he realized that Jake was no longer looking at him. Jake was looking past him at something behind him. The leader began to turn, and in that moment of distraction, Jake moved again. This time, he didn't use tools or throw rocks. This time, he used his bare hands. Jake and Zarakith moved quietly through the forest, staying off the main paths and keeping to the shadows under the tall trees. The forest was usually a peaceful place, filled with the sounds of alien birds and the rustle of purple leaves in. The wind? Today it felt different, dangerous, like something was watching them from the darkness between the trees. They had been walking for over an hour, and Jake's radio had crackled with reports from the colony. The Skornathi had attacked 2 more outer settlements, and refugees were streaming into the main colony. The situation was getting worse by the hour. How much further? Zarakith whispered, her voice barely audible over the sound of their footsteps on the forest floor. About 30 minutes, Jake replied, checking his compass. The research station should be just past that ridge. Zarakith nodded, adjusting her pack. Jake noticed she was breathing harder than usual, and her silver skin had a slight sheen of sweat. The Veltar were not built for long physical exertion like humans were, but she was keeping up without complaint. "Are you okay?" Jake asked softly. "I'm fine," she said, though Jake could hear the tiredness in her voice. "Just not used to this much walking." They continued through the forest, moving from tree to tree and staying low. Jake's heart was beating. Fast not just from the exercise, but from the fear of what they might find. The Skornathi were known to be brutal. If they had already reached the research station, the people there might already be dead as they crested a small hill Jake held up his hand for Zarakith to stop. Through the trees ahead, they could see the research station. It was a small building made of local stone and metal, with solar panels on the roof and a small communications tower. Everything looked normal from a distance. "I don't see any movement," Jake said quietly. "Maybe they're hiding inside," Zarakith suggested. Jake pulled out his radio. "Command, this is Jake. We're approaching the research station. No sign of hostile activity yet." "Copy that, Jake," came Lisa's voice through the static. "Be careful. Skornathi are known for setting traps." Jake put the radio away and signaled for Zarakith to follow him. They moved down the hill slowly, staying hidden behind trees and rocks. The research station grew larger as they approached, and Jake could see that the front door was standing open. "That's not good," he whispered. "Dr. Kim always keeps that door locked." They reached the edge of the clearing around the research station. Jake could see scorch marks on the ground and some equipment scattered around the building. "There had definitely been a fight here. Stay here," Jake told Zarakith. "I'll check the building." "No," she said firmly. "We stay together." "That's what." We agreed. Jake wanted to argue, but he knew she was right. They had promised to stick together, and splitting up now would be foolish. He nodded, and they moved toward the building together, keeping low and watching for any signs of danger. The inside of the research station was a mess. Tables were overturned, equipment was smashed, and papers were scattered everywhere. But there were no bodies, which Jake took as a good sign. Maybe the people had escaped, or maybe they had been taken prisoner. "Look at this," Zarakith said, pointing to the floor. There were drag marks in the dust, leading from the main room toward the back of the building. They followed the drag marks to a storage room at the back of the station. The door was locked, but Jake could hear voices inside. He knocked softly on the door. "Dr. Kim, it's Jake Morrison. Are you in there?" There was silence for a moment, then the sound of movement. The door opened slowly, and Dr. Kim's face appeared in the gap. She was a middle-aged Korean woman with gray hair and kind eyes, but now she looked terrified. "Jake, thank God," she whispered. "We thought you were more raiders. Are you hurt?" Jake asked as Dr. Kim opened the door wider. "Where?" "Okay," she said. "Scare, but okay. Tom and Velinaro are with me." Jake could see the other 2 survivors huddled in the storage room. Tom was a young human technician, and Velinaro was a Veltar researcher like Zarakith. All three looked frightened but unharmed. What happened here? Zarkif asked. 3. Skirnathi came about an hour ago, Dr. Kim explained. They searched the station, took some equipment, and then left. We hid in here the whole time. They didn't find us. We need to get you back to the colony, Jake said. It's not safe here. Agreed, Dr. Kim said. Let us gather our essential research data. As the 3 survivors quickly packed their most important work, Jake checked his radio. Command, this is Jake. We found the research station team. All 3 are alive and unharmed. We're beginning extraction now. Great news, Jake, Lisa's voice came back. Be advised, we're tracking multiple Skirnathi groups in your area. Get back here as fast as you can. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. Copy that, Command. We're moving now. They left the research station quickly, with Dr. Kim, Tom, and Velanara carrying small packs of essential equipment. Jake led the group back toward the forest path, hoping they could reach the colony before the Skirnathi found them. They had. Been walking for about 20 minutes when Zarkif suddenly stopped. Wait, she whispered. I hear something. Everyone froze, listening. Jake could hear it too now, a low rumbling sound that seemed to be coming from multiple directions. It sounded like engines, but not human engines. Off the path, Jake said. Urgently, into the trees, now. They scrambled off the forest path and hid behind a cluster of large rocks. Jake pulled out his binoculars and scanned the area. Through the trees, he could see movement. 3 large vehicles were approaching, moving slowly through the forest like hunters tracking prey. Skirnathi Patrol, he whispered to the others. 3 vehicles, probably 9 or 10 raiders total. Can we go around them? Dr. Kim asked. Jake studied the terrain. The patrol was moving in a pattern that would cut off their route back to the colony. I don't think so. They're blocking our path. Maybe we can wait for them to pass, Tom suggested. No, Zarkif said, pointing to her scanner. They're not just patrolling. They're tracking something. Us. Jake looked at the scanner display. Sure enough, the Skirnathi vehicles were following. The same path they had taken from the research station. Somehow, the raiders had figured out that someone had been there. They must have left sensors at the station, Jake realized. They knew we were coming. The rumbling sound was getting closer. Jake could see the first Skirnathi vehicle through the trees now. It was a large, armored thing that looked like it. Had been built for war. The Skirnathi sitting on top of it was huge, even by their standards, with thick armor and weapons that looked like they could cut through steel. We need to move, Jake said. If we stay here, they'll find us. Where? Dr. Kim asked. There's nowhere to go. Jake looked around desperately. The forest was thick, but not thick enough to hide from hunters who knew what they were doing. The rocks they were hiding behind were good cover, but only for a few minutes. Then he spotted something. About 50 meters away, there was a narrow canyon that cut through the hillside. It was too narrow for the Skirnathi vehicles, but people could get through it on foot. There, he pointed. That canyon. If we can reach it, we can get away from their vehicles. That's a long way to run in the open, Tom said nervously. It's our only chance, Jake said. Wait for my signal, then run as fast as you can. The first Skirnathi vehicle was very close now. Jake could see the raider on top scanning the forest with some kind of detector. In a few seconds, that detector would find them. Now, Jake whispered. They ran. All 6 of them broke cover and sprinted toward the canyon, their feet pounding on the forest floor. Behind them, Jake heard shouts in the harsh Skirnathi language, then the roar of engines as the vehicles changed direction to pursue them. Faster, Jake shouted, though he knew everyone was already running as fast as they could. They reached the canyon entrance just as the first Skirnathi vehicle broke through the trees behind them. Jake pushed the others into the narrow opening and turned to see 3 large raiders jumping down from their vehicles. They were bigger than he had expected, each one nearly 8 feet tall and covered in thick armor. They carried weapons that Looked like they could cut a person in half. "Go!" Jake yelled to the others. "Get to the other end of the canyon." But as they ran deeper into the canyon, Jake realized with growing horror that it was a trap. The canyon was narrow and twisted, but it had only one exit, and when they reached it, they found two more Skirnathi vehicles waiting for them. They were surrounded. The 6 survivors huddled together in the narrow canyon as the Skirnathi closed in from both ends. Jake looked at Zarakith, seeing the fear in her golden eyes. This was not how he had imagined their day would end. "I'm sorry," he whispered to her. "Don't be sorry yet," she whispered back. "We're still alive." But as the Skirnathi entered the canyon with their weapons ready, Jake wondered how much longer that would be true. Jake woke up to the sound of emergency sirens screaming across the colony. The harsh noise cut through the peaceful morning air like a knife. He sat up in bed, his heart already racing before his mind was fully awake. Beside him, Zarakith was, already sitting up, her golden eyes wide with alarm. "What is that sound?" she asked, her voice tight with worry. Jake was already getting out of bed, grabbing his clothes from the chair beside the bed. "Emergency sirens. Something's wrong." They dressed quickly, not speaking as the sirens continued to wail. Jake had heard these sirens during practice drills, but this was different. This was real, urgent, and scary. He grabbed his emergency pack. From the closet, the one every colonist was supposed to keep ready. Outside their house, other colonists were coming out of their homes, all looking confused and frightened. Human and alien neighbors stood in the street, talking in worried voices. Children cried while their parents tried to comfort them. "Jake! Zara!" called a voice from down the street. Captain Lisa Chang was running toward them, her security uniform wrinkled like she had dressed in a hurry. Lisa was a small woman with short black hair and sharp eyes, but she moved with the confidence of someone used to giving orders. "What's happening?" Jake asked as Lisa reached them. "Raiders," Lisa said, breathing hard. "Skirnathi raiders attacked the outer settlements about an hour ago. They hit 3 farms and a mining station. We've lost contact with all of them." Zarakith gasped. Jake felt his stomach drop. The Skirnathi were bad news. Everyone in the galaxy knew that. They were a species of large, aggressive aliens who made their living by attacking peaceful settlements, taking slaves, and stealing resources. "How many?" Jake asked. "We don't know yet," Lisa said. "Could be a small raiding party. Could be a full war band. We're organizing evacuations for the outer areas and setting up defenses around the main colony." More colonists were gathering around them, all asking questions at once. Lisa raised her voice to address the growing crowd. "Everyone listen," she called out. "This is not a drill. We have hostile forces in the area. All civilians need to move to the emergency shelters immediately. Security teams, report to the command. Center, medical teams, prepare for casualties." The crowd began to move, but not in panic. The colonists had practiced for this kind of emergency, even though they all hoped it would never happen. Humans and aliens helped each other, parents carried children, and the elderly were assisted by younger neighbors. Jake looked at Zarakith. "You should go to the shelters. What about you?" she asked. "I'm not security, but they might need engineers to help with defenses," Jake said. "Lisa, do you need me?" Lisa nodded. "We might need to shut down power to some areas or boost power to others. Report to the command center if you can." Zarakith grabbed Jake's arm. "I'm coming with you." "The shelters are safer," Jake said gently. "I'm a scientist." "I might be able to help too," Zarakith said firmly. "Besides, I want to stay with you." Jake looked into her golden eyes and saw determination there. He nodded. "Okay, but stay close to me." They followed Lisa toward the command center, which was located in the strongest building in the colony. Along the way, they passed Dr. Ben Carter, setting up a field medical station outside the main clinic. "Ben," Jake called out. "Need any help?" "Not right now," Ben replied, not looking up from his supplies. But if anyone gets hurt, bring them. Here, I've got everything ready. The command center was buzzing with activity. Humans and aliens worked side by side, monitoring communications equipment, studying maps, and coordinating defensive positions. Large screens on the walls showed views from cameras around the colony and the surrounding area. Jake, good, Lisa said as they entered. I need you to check the power grid. If we need to go dark in some areas, can you do it without shutting down essential systems? Yes, Jake said, moving to a computer terminal. Give me a few minutes to look at the current. Setup. As Jake worked, Zarkif stood beside him, watching the activity around them. She had never seen humans in a crisis situation before. On her homeworld, the Veltar were peaceful and had not faced serious threats for generations. But here, she saw humans moving with purpose and determination, working together to protect their home. Report from the Northern Outpost, called. Out of voice from the communications station. 3 Skirnathi ships spotted moving toward the research station. Jake looked up from his work. The research station was where he and Zarakit had been planning to go today to check on some experiments. How many people at the research station? Lisa asked. 2 humans and 1 Veltar, came the reply. They're not responding to communications. Lisa cursed under her breath. Send a security team to evacuate them. Ma'am, said another voice. All our security teams are either defending the outer perimeter or escorting evacuees to the shelters. We don't have anyone available. Lisa stared at the map on the main screen, her face tight with worry. Jake could see her mind working, trying to figure out how to save everyone with limited resources. I can go, Jake said quietly. Everyone in the command center turned to look at him. Lisa shook her head. Jake, you're not trained for combat situations. I know the area around the research station better than anyone, Jake said. I've been working out there for 2 years. I can get in and out quietly. It's too dangerous, Lisa said firmly. The Skirnathi are trained killers. They're bigger and stronger than humans. Then those people at the research station are going to die, Jake said simply. Because you don't have anyone else to send. The command center fell silent, except for the hum of equipment and the distant sound of sirens. Everyone knew Jake was right. The security teams were already stretched thin, and the research station was too far away for them to reach in time. I'll go with him, Zarakis said suddenly. Absolutely not, Jake said, turning to her. It's too dangerous. I know the research station too, Zarakis said. I've been working there with you, and I know the local terrain better than you do. My people studied this area for years before the colony was built. Lisa looked between them, clearly unhappy with the situation. This is insane. Neither of you has any combat training. But we're the only ones who can get there in time, Jake said. Look, we'll be careful. We'll scout the area first, and if there are too many Skirnathi, we'll come back. But if there's a chance to save those people, we have to try. Lisa was quiet for a long moment, staring at the map. Finally, she nodded. Take a communication device. Check in every 30 minutes. If you don't report in, I'm assuming the worst. We'll be careful, Jake promised. Lisa handed him a small radio and a basic first aid kit. The research station is about 2 hours away on foot if you take the forest path. The road is probably being watched. Jake nodded, tucking the radio into his pack. Zarakif gathered some supplies of her own, including a scanner that might help them detect Skirnathi movements. As they prepared to leave, Dr. Ben Carter appeared at Jake's side. Take this, he said, handing Jake a small medical kit. It's got painkillers and clotting agents. If someone's hurt, this might keep them alive long enough to get back here. Thanks, Ben, Jake said, adding the kit to his pack. Lisa walked them to the door of the command center. Be smart out there. Don't try to be heroes. Get the people and get out. We will, Jake said as they left the command center. Jake looked back at the activity inside. Humans and aliens working together, preparing to defend their home against a threat that wanted to destroy everything they had built. The The colony wasn't just a place to live. It was a symbol of what two species could accomplish together. Now that symbol was under attack, and Jake and Zarakith were walking into danger to help protect it. Jake felt scared but also determined. This was his home, these were his people, and he wasn't going to let raiders destroy what they had built. The forest. Paths stretched ahead of them, leading toward the research station and an uncertain fate. Jake Morrison wiped the sweat from his forehead as he adjusted the last bolt on the water purification system. The twin suns of Kepler 442b beat down on his back, making the work harder than it should be. He stepped back and watched the machine. Hum to life, its gentle vibration telling him everything was working perfectly. Another job done, he said to himself, packing his tools into the worn leather bag his father had given him years ago on Earth. Jake had been on New Eden Colony for 3 years now, and he still felt amazed by how different this world was from his home planet. The sky was a lighter blue, the grass had a purple tint, and the air smelled like cinnamon and rain. The colony stretched out before him like a small city. Human buildings mixed with alien structures, creating a unique sight that never got old. The human buildings were square and practical, made from local stone and metal. The alien buildings curved and twisted upward like living things, made from materials that seemed to glow softly in the sunlight. Jake walked down the main street, nodding to neighbors as he passed. Mrs. Helen Baker waved from her garden where she was growing earth vegetables alongside alien plants. The vegetables looked strange next to the purple and silver alien crops, but they grew well in the rich soil. "Jake, good to see you," called out Dr. Ben Carter from the medical center. "How's the water system running?" "Perfect as always," Jake replied with a smile. "Should give you clean water for months." Ben nodded and went back to his work. Jake continued, walking, enjoying the mix of human and alien voices around him. Children played in the streets, some human, some alien, all laughing in the universal language of play. The colony had become something special, a place where two very different species had learned to live together. Jake's home was a small house on the edge of the settlement, built in the human style, but with alien touches that his mate had added. The front door was painted blue, and strange wind chimes made from alien crystals hung from the porch. They made soft, musical sounds when the wind touched them. "Zara, I'm home," Jake called as he opened the door. The inside of the house was cool and comfortable, with human furniture mixed with alien decorations. Books in both human and alien languages filled the shelves, and plants from both worlds grew in pots by the windows. In the lab came the reply from the back room. Zarakith's voice had a musical quality that Jake had fallen in love with the first time he heard it. Her accent was slight but charming, making even simple words sound like poetry. Jake found her, bent over a microscope, studying something that glowed green in the light. Zarakith was tall and slender, with silver skin that seemed to shimmer when she moved. Her eyes were large and golden, and her hair was white as snow, but felt soft as silk. She wore a simple dress that humans would find normal, but it was made from alien fabric that changed colors slightly as she moved. "What are you looking at today?" Jake asked, putting his arms around her shoulders from behind. "Something wonderful," Zarakith said, not looking up from the microscope. "The local moss has healing properties. If I can understand how it works, it might help both humans and my people." Jake smiled. This was typical of Zarakith. She was always finding ways to help others, always curious about how things worked. It was one of the things that had drawn him to her when they first met 2 years ago. "Have you eaten today?" Jake asked. He knew that when Zarakith was working on something interesting, she often forgot about food. "I had breakfast," she said, finally looking up at him. Her golden eyes sparkled with excitement. "Jake, this is really important. This moss could change medicine for both our species." "I'm sure it will," Jake said, kissing the top of her head. "But right now, you need lunch. Come on, I'll make something." Zarakith sighed but saved her work and followed Jake to the kitchen. She had learned to enjoy human food, though she still found some of it strange. Jake had learned to cook some. Alien dishes too, though he wasn't very good at it yet. "How was your day?" Zarkif asked as Jake prepared sandwiches. She sat at the small table they had made together, her long fingers tracing patterns on the wood. "Good. Fixed the water system at the North Farm. Mrs. Baker's vegetables are growing well. Dr. Carter says the medical center needs a new air filter next week." Jake talked about his day while he worked, enjoying the normal routine of it all. "You? Humans are so good at fixing things," Zarkis said with admiration. "My people are good at growing things and understanding how they work, but you humans can fix anything," Jake laughed. "We're not that special. We just like to solve problems." "That's what makes you special," Zarkis said seriously. "My people studied humans for years before we made contact. We thought you were interesting, but not very strong. We were wrong about the strong part. We're not strong compared to most alien species," Jake said, sitting down with their lunch. "We're just stubborn. Stubborn can be a kind of strength," Zarkis said with a smile. "Look at this colony. 5 years ago, no one thought humans and Veltar could live together. Now we have families, businesses, friendships. You humans don't give up easily." Jake reached across the table and took her hand. Her skin was always cool to the touch, but it warmed under his fingers. "We found something worth not giving up on." They ate in comfortable silence, watching the alien birds outside their window. The birds looked like earth sparrows, but had 4 wings and sang in harmonies that sounded like music. Jake had tried to record their songs to send to his sister on Earth, but the recordings never captured the full beauty of the sound. After lunch, Zarkif returned to her lab while Jake worked on plans for a new irrigation system. The work was challenging but satisfying. He liked the way engineering problems had clear solutions, unlike the messy complications of politics or relationships as the afternoon wore on. Jake found himself thinking about how good life had become. 2 years ago, he had been lonely and unsure about his place in the colony. Meeting Zarkit had changed everything. She had shown him that love could cross species lines, that 2 very different beings could build something beautiful together. House grew quiet as both of them worked on their projects. This was another thing Jake loved about their relationship. They could be together without needing to fill every moment with conversation. They were comfortable with each other in a way that felt natural and right as the twin suns began to set. Painting the sky in shades of orange and purple, Jake put away his work and went to find Zarkif. She was still in her lab, but she had moved away from the microscope and was writing notes in her careful handwriting. "Ready for dinner?" Jake asked. "Almost," Zarkif said, not looking up. "I want to finish these notes while the ideas are fresh." Jake nodded and went to start dinner. He had learned that Zarkis's work was important to her, just as his was to him. They supported each other's passions, even when it meant eating dinner a little late as he cooked. Jake thought about how lucky they were. The colony was peaceful. Their work was meaningful, and they had each other. Life was good, simple, and full of quiet happiness. He had no idea that in less than 24 hours, everything would change forever.